Next up, we have Mark Stouse, who is the Vice President of Global Communications and Customer Connect at BMC Software. This is his second stint at BMC, so obviously they're doing something right. Congrats on recently not only being named to the Holmes Report's prestigious Top 25 Innovators in 2013, but for the presentation and the software product that they're doing that you're about to hear more about, have also been named to Top Innovators for 2014 as well. I say 13 and 14, sorry. In between his time at BMC, Mark was the Global VP of Communications and Marcom at Honeywell Aerospace, and he has also held a variety of senior communication roles at hardware giant HP prior to his time at Honeywell. No further ado, Mark Stouse.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Viva Las Vegas. So this is usually a much longer presentation because this is a fairly deep and complicated topic, but I think have it down to a 20-minute-esque kind of thing. This is all, so ISS is all about a conversation that I had with Mark Hurd about 9 years ago. That was kind of the genesis of this, where he basically was asking the questions that most people in this room have heard. And that is, how do I know you're doing a good job? How do I know that you're spending your money that I give you correctly? And what does all this really mean for my business? Right? What's the ROI? So we ended up having a rather long conversation in a park in Seattle about this. And he set forth what he wanted to see at his end of the prism. So some friends of mine and I sat down, and when we started working on a reverse engineering of that so that we could get it all the way down to the functions. So today, right, we've come a very, very long way. Today, ISS delivers proof of performance, proof of efficiency, and proof of business impact in 3 modules. And I just told you the way it got started. I kind of got a little ahead of myself here, right? This was all about an attempt to change the conversation that all of us have had, right, about, why are you cutting my budget? Why don't you invest more? So the big difference here, this was developed for business leaders, with business leaders. Very few communicators, and until recently, very few marketers actually had, outside of the little group that I've been working with, had input into this because we really wanted it to be business leader centric. It's been road tested now for 8 years, 3 public companies, 5 major agencies, innumerable CXOs have had input and have used it. The kind of the proof of the pudding ultimately was at Honeywell. This is an operationally rigorous company. They're not going to put up with any kind of bull. The first thing that they wanted is the CFO and his team to take a look at it. So this is now really past the smell test and the operational test. Today it gives you a balanced system of accountability. So there's a lot of things that we discovered on the way to creating this, right? So initially, and I kind of think about this in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, initially we kind of thought of this as a way to kind of keep our agency aligned and ensure that we were getting money, the performance for our money and our money's worth, all that kind of good stuff. What we found is that really this is a tremendous mutual tool to achieve balance, alignment, and all kinds of good stuff that ultimately adds up to a lot of freedom, right? So this is liberating to all parties involved because the cool part about this, it gamifies the relationships. It gamifies the relationships with the agency. It also gamifies the relationships between all the different parts of marketing. So this is now something that structurally allows everybody to see all the time what's going on, not only from a marketing organization standpoint, but up and down throughout the organization. Everybody can log in and see what they want to see, what they need to see. Lastly, this is based on a logic path that CXOs, the business leaders, understand, recognize, and respect. So this is now something that when you sit down with them for a budget conversation and you show them the data, they go, okay, I got it. I understand the harbingers, the precursors, the predictors in this. I think I'm going to invest more over here. So this is ISS at a glance, right? This is a little diagram that we created. Again, this is the logic path here is very simple. The trick, as David Cody, the chairman of Honeywell, would say, is in the doing. And there's a lot behind this that makes it happen. But at the end of the day, right, everything that happens tactically is abstracted into a point value. So points become our version of revenue. If we are running marketing like a business, revenue is points for us, okay? Cost is obvious, right? So now all of a sudden we can start to play tactically on an income statement of our own, which then allows us later to play in the real one. We also created an EDI, an Environmental Difficulty Index. So one of the things that we saw here as we were moving through this process is that we were measuring everything except how difficult the sledding was, right, out there in the marketplace. So we essentially created this index that integrates macroeconomic data with company performance data. And it renders a 1 through 5 index, and I'll get to that in a little bit because it's really pretty cool. But then that is ultimately something that adjusts, it normalizes what's going on and what you need to do in order to get from A to B. So that ultimately, at the end of the day, you're connecting to revenue margin and cash flow because you're tied in to sales data. You're looking at sales productivity, right? So the demand generation, deal expansion, deal velocity metrics, right? These are all stuff that we are looking at and integrating with, and it is allowing our CEO, for example, to say, wow, you know what, you bought me 10% gain in sales velocity over the last year. That translated into cash flow impact of X. I really like that. I'd like you to do more of that. So here's kind of what the dashboard looks like. This is mainly just for grins and giggles, right? But everybody can look at this. This is totally transparent to the whole organization. So implementing it. First of all, it's really important that you get out of your functional box and you think like a CEO or a CFO, right? So what do they want the most? They want to know the future. They want to know what's going to happen, and they want to be able to back up and look at data that's going to suggest to them what's going to happen 9 months later or 12 months later. That's a big part of what this allows them to do. So we were essentially looking for those harbingers, looking for those predictors all the way down the line, and we were reverse engineering that so that we could see the causal factors. The second thing that you have to do is understand your tactical performance. So this is something that we all think we do because everybody typically is measuring tactics. But the vast majority of us are just saying, wow, this happened, right? And oh, by the way, it happened a quarter ago. So what does that really mean to me today? You're not using it actually to power what you do going forward. So you've got to build, we now have about 9 years worth of data in the system. It allows us to be incredibly predictive, just like a sales leader would be predictive. So when Bob Beecham, my CEO, sits down with his sales leaders, he's going to say to them, hey, I want you to go on the hook, right? And I want you to tell me what's going to happen. What are you going to sign up for this quarter or next quarter? We do exactly the same thing. and allows the whole cascading effect of this is pretty powerful. The fourth thing that I just wanted to raise here that we found out as we were implementing this is that the key part on the strategic layer is getting access to sales data. A lot of times that's hard to do. Sales doesn't want to give up control. The jujitsu move that opens up the candy store is to say, hey guys, we're spending many tens of millions of dollars on your sales comp. We're spending many tens of millions of dollars over here on marketing. A lot of money at stake, right? Don't you think we need to do this? Do you really want to stand up in front of the CFO and say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let marketing have my sales data? I've never seen that fail. So, tactical modules, I'm just going to blow through this pretty quickly. These are some of the examples within a comms context of stuff that we look at. We take the results and we predict. And this is a really simplified version of the formula that we're using. So we apply this now to field marketing, to advertising. We do all kinds of stuff with it, right? Because again, this is an abstraction layer that normalizes across any particular function you want to look at. So you get a point value. That's basically allows you to understand tactically what's going on, and it's built into performance goals for all the team members. Operationally speaking, so this is the area where the CEO is saying, how well are you spending my money? This is simple math, but it's actually very powerful stuff, right? The total quarterly investment against the total number of points generated is a cost per point. So this is a key efficiency metric going forward. And when you have 9 years of data, it becomes really, really interesting. And you can actually write your agency contracts. This is exactly what we do with WCG and with other agencies. We don't care what their rates are anymore. We say, look, this is the amount of money we're going to spend with you. These are your point goals for each quarter. Go out and get them, right? This is the blow up of EDI. So essentially, what this is doing here is it's acknowledging the fact that if I'm driving on tarmac in bright sunshine in my car, I'm going to get a lot better miles per gallon than if I'm driving through 12 inches of mud, right, in a rainstorm. So this is the great normalizer. The 1 through 4 index also acts as a multiplier on the cost per point. So for example, this is real life. BMC in the last year went through a privatization move. We had an activist investor in the stock. Things were a lot more contentious, a lot more negative than they typically would be. Our EDI dropped from a 1, which is optimal, to a 3. So I went to Bob and I said, Bob, here's the deal, right? To get the same outcome that you're used to is going to take 3x the investment. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to redefine what success is? He obviously chose to redefine what success was, right? But it's one of those things where it really doesn't matter in the end how much money is being spent. I'm using that, I don't take that super literally, because you always have a really strong association between the money that's being spent and the outcomes. So this is the demand generation, deal expansion, sales velocity, cascades down through revenue margin and cash flow into the overall results of the company. So one of the things that BMC has seen, for example, is that based upon what happens in my organization with some of these scoring in Q1, that is going to let them, that gives them kind of an early warning of what might happen in terms of revenue margin and cash flow in Q3 and Q4. So that's one of the things that they like about it, right? Is that it's not just me saying, see, I did what I signed up to do. It's also about business intelligence for them. This has really focused the business on the total go-to-market investment, as opposed to saying, well, we're going to focus on sales, maybe not so much so marketing, or we're going to splinter marketing or whatever. It really makes them look at it holistically, because for the first time they can see what they've always believed but couldn't prove, right? Which was the causality between what marketing does and revenue margin and cash flow impact. So what we've learned on the client side, this allows you to run your function like a business, literally. So we are very much operating like a hedge fund, right? We are making bets. We have another little thing that we created not too long ago called the Net Promoter Score for content. Imagine you could put a little RFID tag, I'm using that in quotes, right, on content before you push it out into the ether. And all of a sudden, not only can you see exactly where it goes and who passes it to whom, but you can see the speed with which it happens. And that's a proxy for enthusiasm. So it allows our content creators to be very, very experimental, knowing that they will get fast failure or fast success feedback. And that helps us control our opportunity cost on content, right, while maintaining a spirit of innovation. It allows us to leverage all of our KPIs like we've never been able to do before to really refine the mix. It allows us to think in new ways around relative audience value. So this is a little revolutionary for some people, right, that not all audiences are created equal. You know, I really don't care what these folks over here are saying. I really care very much what these folks are saying. Content half-life, right? So, I mean, think about it. You create a piece of content, you spend whatever you spend on it, you stick it out there, it's competing against all these other pieces of content. The half-life is zip, right? That's why you have to keep filling the funnel. So getting it right, making a really good investment is the key there. Add cost equivalency. So big rage right now on the comm side, you know, we're tossing out AVEs, right? But with a little change of one letter, it actually is a damn good metric, right? Because we're not talking about value, we're talking about comparative cost, which is something that business leaders really like a lot. And then lost opportunity value is something that we really focus in a lot, because this is what hammers if we spend money and we don't get value extraction from it, this sucks. Agency side, right? Allows you to work in unity with your client like you probably have never experienced before, because guess what? If they cut your budget, the goals diminish. If they increase your budget, the point goals go up, right? So all of a sudden, from the agency side, they have a hedge, right? They know they're not going to be asked to invest, right, in the account too much, right, and see margin erosion on their side. It eliminates client subjectivity around performance, right? This is really highly objectified stuff. It automatically adjusts the performance objectives, as I said. It leverages deeper understanding on the cause and effect to drive higher margins. So one of the things that I'm personally proud of is the agencies that have operated underneath this system for multiple years. My account has been one of their highest margin accounts in their house, right? They're making a lot of money on my business, which is good for them and it's good for me. Allows us to calibrate the spend, and for the agency to calibrate its spend so that they're not spending on stuff that ultimately doesn't matter to the client. There's a lot of stuff. All you guys who are in agencies, really encourage you, just as a sidebar, do an audit, right? Find out, what of all the stuff am I doing for my client that the client doesn't care about, right? I mean, the briefing documents that go unread, all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, you gotta figure out a way to diminish your investment on that side so you can invest more on the stuff that matters. Lastly, one of the things that's really cool here on the agency side is that the agencies are starting to use ISS for competitive displacement in RFPs. So they take the last 2 or 3 years of the client's data. They pour it into ISS before the RFP response, and lo and behold, they walk in there and say, this is actually what you've been getting. This is the level of efficiency you've been receiving. We'll sign up for this and this and this. It becomes a very short conversation for a lot of clients. So at the end, wrapping it up, this is the part that everybody really likes because everybody has seen this, right? We're constantly asked to do more with less. But one of the things that ISS has really created for a lot of people is a line in the sand that says, no, we do less with less and we do more with more.